Oh my god, I think I was mute. So I will start again. So, hey, how are you? Welcome back to this Global Hack Week, this great initiative. And let's talk about open source this time, right? For this session, which is one of my favorites, and I think this couldn't be more related to the main topic of open source. We are going to talk about Git and GitHub. And for that, we have Mona joining us. So say hi to Mona. And as always, I would like to start reading some of your comments. So Unreachable Fox says thanks. I don't know why, maybe from the past stream. I'm not sure. Akio Kiyota says hi. Uh, Marcho Vessel says hello. Lots Heaven says hello, guys. And should be updated. Oh, okay, Akio Kayata says, I couldn't attend the Figma stream. Is there a way I can rewatch it somewhere? Yes, of course. The answer is go to the YouTube page of the Manually Hacking and you can find the recording there. Or you can see also the Global Hack Week page, which is ghw.nlh.io. So you can find a lot of the recordings there, information about upcoming streams so you don't miss anything, and the challenges and all this stuff related to this Global Hack Week, right? Should be adapted on YouTube. Yeah, thanks for the response. I will check that. Thanks. Hey, hello. Hello. So a lot of haze. Uh, Thank you so much for sharing these, which you can find again in the YouTube channel of the Majorly Hacking. The the link for the recording streams. So hey, right, perfect. So I love to see all your comments, and I love to see your enthusiasm for this session. Why don't we get started, right? And let me start sharing my screen for these. I'm going to allow that, and this is the share yeah, the screen I want to share. Let's add it. Perfect. Amazing. So, get good with Git. First, I would like to introduce myself because I always forgot to do this. I'm so rude. I'm so sorry. My name is Alberto. I'm your mainly hacking coach from Mexico and use he pronouns, and also am a GitHub Campus expert. What does that mean? Well, it's an initiative from GitHub to support local communities. So if you have a local community or you're building around technology events, well, that can become a community. So I encourage you to apply to the Campus Expert program. And that's an initiative from GitHub Education. So GitHub Education and the Melee Hacking, we work uh, together very, very well. So that's why we have this session for you. And again, I think this fits perfectly for the main topic of the Global Hack Week, open source, right? Because we know in GitHub, we love open source. So a few notes before we start this session. It's that, first of all, thank you for attending. The second thing I want to have in mind is that during this workshop, we are going to discuss an introduction to GitHub. We are going to get access to this GitHub Student Developer Pack, which is the first step for applying for being a GitHub Campus expert. Then we are going to learn about virtual control systems, which is Git indeed. So, uh, sorry, I thought for a second the screen blipped, but I think you can see it now, right? If anything during this session, I don't know, like my internet fails or the screen it's not visible, you can hear me, you can see me, anything, please let me know in the comments. I have my second monitor here, so I'll be checking the comment sections. um, Only 30 people? Oh, don't you worry. I'm pretty sure a lot of attendants are going to join us later, or they are going to watch the stream. Don't worry. Is it recorded? Yes. Where I can find the video. Let's return to this Iowa Siwa link that was shared before. This is the Mainly Hacking YouTube page, so you can find the recordings there. But also, you can head to globalhackweek.com github.mlh.io and find all the information regarding Global Hack Week, right? Um, Hello, guys. Glad to be here. Hey, yeah, some more hellos. So, thank you a lot for posting here. I really again love to see all the good vibes. Ground screen. No, I'm sharing the slides, right? Or what do you mean with ground screen? Because I'm watching like the one I'm sharing, and it's the mono with the apple and the stick as an education, right? Correct screen. Okay, okay, no, no, don't worry. Maybe it's trolling. Yes, okay, thank you. My type of wrong place. Okay. No, no, don't you worry. Okay, let's return to this, right? Um, this is going to be the difference between virtual control systems, Git and GitHub, right? So let's expand on that. Then we are going to have a walkthrough using Git and GitHub along together. So that's great. Let me move this a little bit. And okay, perfect. Because now I can see three screens. So let's start exploring this Git and GitHub. And we have this little phrase that I just love that it's Git is cool, but GitHub is cooler. And I have to admit, I'm super biased, like super, super biased. I told you again, I'm GitHub campus expert. I have this Mana plushie here, so that just means I'm a big, big fan of what GitHub do. I also have like this GitHub swag from the time I went to GitHub Universe. Um, and I have to say, I'm super biased, but I can't agree more. GitHub, it's cool, but Git is good, but GitHub, it's cooler. And I am going to tell you why. Uh, GitHub, it's different from Git. Git, it's a version control systems. There are many of them, yes, but the most popular one, it's Git. Git tracks changes in your code. Git its use among various tools to keep track of what you're doing, right? You can think of Git as the history feature where you're working either with Word or the Google Docs or any other DXT that changes, that shows you the changes on your document, right? That's Git. A little bit more complex than that, but you can imagine Git as that. GitHub, in the other hand, it's a cloud platform for code collaboration. Like I oftenly heard about this metaphor of GitHub being like Facebook for developers. I don't think that's completely accurate, but GitHub it's indeed a cloud platform, so we can see a lot of things related to Git. So GitHub uses Git, the virtual control system internally, and it provides a way to host and share the tools that you're creating. Um, GitHub can be accessed everywhere online. Git normally works in your local computer and can be connected to remote repositories, but that's more complex that we're going to talk in a second, right? Um, you can think of GitHub, for example, as in the same relation metaphor, like the Google Drive. So in Git, in your local document history, you make changes, you review them, you agree them, you have your final version, and then you upload that to your drive, right? For example, to share or just to host, to save it somewhere, right? We are going to master Git in an hour. So, well, a little bit less right now, right? So let's prepare us. Of course, there's a lot of things to cover, and we have not that much time. So I'm going to be a little bit quick on my explanations. If you have any question, just let me know. and I will try to explain again, or I will try to make myself clear as possible. But we have some links for you, which you can find very useful at the end of the session if you want to keep exploring more about these tools, which is mlh.link/git and mlh.link/just git, right? So the first, why use GitHub? Yes, there are other platforms. You have GitLab, you have Gitbucket, if you're more like in the Atlassian ecosystem, and more, right? But there are a lot of benefits of using GitHub. And why just GitHub over the local Git platform, right? Well, you have a lot of things, really a lot. So GitHub has a lot of things to offer. Um, we mentioned like GitHub Education, so we have like this student developer pack, but we also have, for example, I'm going just to say a few random GitHub Copilot. If you claimed your GitHub student developer pack before, you have tried GitHub Copilot. We in the Melody Hacking have another session just to teach you about how to configure and start using Copilot as to add that AI per programmer to your team. But that's for another time. I will have to check the agenda if we have one of those coming up. If anyone in the comment section can help you do that. But yeah, also we have GitHub Actions, for example, for CI/CD automations. We have GitHub projects that can help you manage your projects, and related to that you have issues, you have community, you have discussions, you have wikis, you have a lot. So GitHub again has a lot to offers. They even have a GitHub mobile and desktop applications. I don't use the desktop one to be honest, but the mobile one it's great because I have a lot of security. Right, they send me like updates. I see. Discussion, I see threads, I receive notifications when I am requested to review something. Well, that's a lot. I see some comments, so let's make a pause here. Git is open source, but GitHub is closed source. Um, um, I will say it depends if you're meaning like the code, uh, like the base code for the platform. But in GitHub, they encourage a lot open source. And I am not that sure about the source code being closed right now. I think it was before. But hey, that's a great question. I'll indicate more about that. How can I participate in the hackathons to get recognized? As certificate or something, please, can anyone tell me? Well, it depends on the hackathon you're participating. If they like XBIT certification to the attendance. But for sure, if you build something, you can add it to your dev post, and in dev post, you can show all your hackathon projects. Plus, if you win some hackathon, you will have the winner badge on top of it. I even asked in the Discord, but nobody answered. Oh, that's a shame, and I'm pretty sure someone will take a look at that. Mobile, it's great. You can merge pull requests when you're out of ASICs. Yeah, that's great. So like build with the session or build with our own GitHub education. It's great. Yeah. Sorry, Master Chief, I didn't get these two, but I hope I clarify your question about how to be certificate or recognized to participate in a hackathon. So let's continue with the session, right? And well, yeah, you mentioned BNDB why that GitHub education it's top, right? And yes, you're right. So let's talk about this GitHub Student Developer Pack. Can you walk us through the GitHub workflow or collapse from project inception to iteration? Ooh, for the moment, we are going to talk about GitHub workflows, but I cannot do that for specific reasons. We have limited time, but hey, I'll be giving a session later today, like in the night, for how to manage or how to create a project intended to be open source. So come back and I can help you with that. Um, Master Chief, fussing about your participation via socials and tagging MLH is probably gonna help increase visibility. Yeah, I do agree. That's a great advice, pushing P5. Thank you. Returning to the GitHub Student Developer Pack. GitHub Student Developer Pack allows you to access an immense, a huge, a mountain of professional developer tools for free. You have access to things like GitHub Pro, GitHub Copilot, GitHub Code Spaces. You increase with the pro account the things you can do in GitHub, and you have also experiences for learning through many ways, and you have access now to apply to GitHub Campus Expert. And in that, either if you are accepted or not, you can communicate with your local GitHub Campus Expert. So that networking increases your leaders in the community, and also you can start participating more in technology events. So please go ahead to mlh.link/github to claim your GitHub student developer pack. And I want to know, let me know here in comments, how many of you already have redeemed your student developer pack? As me. So that being said, let me. Nice, thanks. Okay, perfect. Sir, please you share the schedule of the events. You can find that in the link I shared before, which is ghw.mlh.io. Here you can find the full agenda for the upcoming events in this Global Hack Week open source. Student developer pack done. Perfect. Done. Amazing. Me, a lot of you. I love that. Already redeemed. Perfect. So for the ones who haven't, don't worry, you will have time. Actually, it takes a little bit time uh, to be accepted. But don't you worry. Just put attention to this session. You don't need that for the moment. You will need that for the Copilot session if you take it. But again, you will have all the time in the world after the session is done. So let's get ourselves intro to this version control system. Why should you use these version control systems like it? Let's take a look to how this complete workflow looks like, and then we are going to go step by step. Virtual controls enable multiple people to work simultaneously on a single project. So in this way, you don't have to do things like, this file dot version one, and then you send it, and then you receive changes, and then there's miscommunication or problems, and you have complexity in your projects. For doing this, Git breaks down this to four areas: your working directory, your staging area that completes the local repo, and then you push it to a remote repo, right? So this into the version control system, let's explain what's each part for this. In Git, everyone gets their own working directory. That's like a snapshot. And you have a repository. And the repository has like many snapshots or how your project looked in a specific time in the history, right? So you can think of as the working directory like your current computer. And for getting into the virtual control system, you are going to take snapshots or how your computer or how your project looks in the computer in many times, right? So as you continuously make these changes, you are going to be adding these revisions to a thing called the staging area. For the staging area, you are going to use a comment that it's git add. But I have to make a pause here because I really don't recommend you to memorize git commands. I will give you that suggestion that better memorize Git concepts, right? Like the working directory, like staging area, like the repository. So from your working directory, you are going to add to your staging area. Once you add that staging area and you're for sure of the commits that you, sorry, the changes you want to commit, I mean like the word it's really explaining itself, right? So you have your working directory, you make changes, you select what changes you want to include in your project, because let's face it, not all changes are good. And sometimes that staging area gives you the possibility to rethink about them, and then you commit them. So you commit to a change and add it to the repository. Then, after that's done, to share with others, you push it to a remote repository. And yes, you guessed right. The remote repository, it's in GitHub. And that's the normal flow of how you manage your things in a virtual control system, like Git, right? Uh, Well, GitHub certification vouchers expired on June 30. Go grab it. Okay, please open Git and show working directory and stage area. Okay, don't worry. I will do that in live coding. Let's get through the slides and I will re-explain this on my own computer. But a hint here is that in GitHub, you don't have your working directory and the staging area. Again, working directory, it's your computer. It's like your current file systems and where you have your files and so on, right? The staging area, that's another more complicated thing to explain where it lives, but let's say it lives inside your computer also. Um, and you have those changes, those different changes from the previous versions of your projects, right? But there is no until you commit to those changes that they are reflected in another snapshot. Remember the idea of these snapshots to the local repository. Where they're in staging area, there is like if you still have possibility of removing them, of not committing to them, of just discarding them, right? I mean, you can return to previous states of your of your project, but that will be recorded into the project history. Let's say you add one file or one line of file. If you still in staging area, you can just discard them, not commit to them, and no one will know. But let's say, for example, this is a real scenario. You add a line where you publish just a NAPI key secret, right? So you have your credentials exposed, and you commit that change, and you had it in your local repository. Then you realize, hey, I shouldn't be doing this because this is sensitive information. So you reset or go, well, again, don't remember git comments, but let's say you delete that line and then you add it to an environment file, and so you think there's no problem, right? Well, wrong. There is problem because that was stored in the history of your repository. So if someone inspect that carefully, it will discover that there was a secret shared there. So be careful of doing things like that. Be careful of managing the history of your project. Um, that thing's a great example of how that affect. Remember, working directory and staging area, and even the local repository lives in your computer, and the remote repository, it's where GitHub starts the action, right? So the last thing is, okay, you already shared your changes. But if you're working with someone else, you're not only going to be need to share your changes, but you're going to be needing to get your partner or your teammates changes, right? So for that, we have pooling. So when you pool, you take the information from the remote repository to your local repository and then to your working directory. In this case, it's where things like merge starts coming out, right? You can just get the information, but actually not like saying, okay, asking GitHub, are there any changes? Answer yes. Okay, I need to prepare myself for the changes. Or you can just directly say like, hey, bring all changes to me, and I will resolve things like conflicts in my working directory, right? Um, and that's it. That's circular how these things work. I realize I have that comment. I need to hide it. So, if you make that kind of mistake, is there a way to remove secret from a history? Yes. Great question. Um, in this case, you can modify the history of your Git, but it's dangerous, right? Because that way you lose this information about things that happened into your project. So the answer is yes. Here, for example, rebase and force push if you already publish that into a remote repository. But my advice is will be always put attention to what you're adding to your commits. That's why the staging area it's really important. But yeah, don't you worry. You can you can redeem yourself in that way. Uh, Finally, by designing these intermediate areas, we are allowed to work with any problems before affecting our working directory, right? So that's the whole uh, process of what we are going to do in a virtual control system. I have already bad habit of typing in random stuff for small changes. Okay, no worries. You can get through that bad habit. Then Git and GitHub together, the walkthrough. Let's do that. First, of course, we are going to make sure we have a Git install. So you just need to navigate to acknowledge.link/get git and accordingly to your OS system, uh, make the appropriate installation, right? And let's understand where you can access Git because this is tricky. Git lives inside your computer and you can access it. It depends if you're on Windows. The thing with Windows is that they are based on another platform that was DOS, and Macs and Unix, as the name says, they are based on Unix systems. So any Unix distribution like Fedora, like Ubuntu, like Rasp, Debian, etc., Arc, if you're really try hard, um, this lives directly inside the terminal, right? But for Windows, when you install Git, you install another thing that's called the Git Bash, which if you're a really beginner, that will be the preferred thing to do right now. If you're not that beginner, I really recommend you to have Windows subsystem for Linux. Uh, Bro said try hard. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you, if you're in Unix systems and you're like Arch Linux and stuff, you probably know a lot of things, and I don't know what you're doing here, but yes, thanks for joining us, really expert. Before you installing, oh my God, I moved. So a bit. Oh my God, yeah. Uh, Understanding where you asked before your installation, type just git version in your CLI to verify that you have installed git correctly. If you get an output, everything's fine. If you don't get an output, then make the right installation, right? So step 1.2 or 1b, let's authenticate with git GitHub from Git. There are many ways to do this. Actually, this is just one simple way. You can also use the GitHub desktop app. Uh, Done? Oh, perfect. Hi. Hi, Lamau. Hmm. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I was just reading the comments. But again, there are many ways to authenticate yourself with Git from GitHub. Sorry, the other way to GitHub from Git. Uh, the first thing you can do is just clone. If you don't clone, if your credentials are not authenticated yet, you will receive an error. Um, this is just a simple way to verify that you're authenticated. If you're allowed to clone something, that means everything's fine. So a little bit of the note, you can delete that repo after that. Don't worry. So if the clone was unsuccessful, you will need to authenticate. So you can do that through the GitHub CLI. So for installing that in Windows, that will be the command here. And in Mac, you can use Brew or any other tools. I mean, like it's not necessary doing Brew, but then after that you can do things like GitHub Authenticate logging, and that's great. I use SSH keys, but I think that's a little bit more complicated. So it depends on your expertise. I will recommend that or not. But don't worry. Again, there are many ways to authenticate. So if this helps, that's great. If this doesn't help, just go ahead and Google authenticate GitHub, uh, and that's it. GitHub has, you already know, it's amazing, and they have a lot of documentation on how you can do this. So let's continue with that. Can you please clone link to chat? Oh yeah, sure. Let me do that. Oh my god, I am not allowed. Okay. Uh, but hey, don't worry. I can write it. In the meantime, you have any other question? github.com/mlh/intro to git. SSH keys are amazing. Yeah. And well, that's perfect. Let's continue. Once we have Git and GitHub set it up, let's start creating a local repo, right? So first, take yourself to one directory. And in this case, if you're not familiar with mkdir, it's how we create folders or directories inside the console or the terminal in a Unix system. So you're not familiar with the console, you're not familiar with terminal yet, the first thing I would recommend as a developer is start getting familiar. There's a resource I like to share, which is linuxjourney.com. Here inside the um, yeah, here inside the command line course, you can find a lot of information, and it will help you a lot. So let me share this link with you. Linux Journey. It's perfect for start learning those things that we at first are afraid of, like the terminal, like the system itself, like how to do those things that hackers really do. So, okay, that was just a small pause. Once we created the folder, we are going to move inside that. So that's CD, and you just hit git init, right? That's all, and you have your repository ready. Will this session be covering topic to rewrite history with rebase or temp? Actually, no, but we are going to talk about conflicts and yeah, the conflicts when we merge, right? And for that, I really need to hurry because time is running up. Actually, I don't think I'll be able to share my own terminal and do that. But let's focus on the slides, right? Let's do this quicker. I'm so sorry. Uh, Initialized empty repository. Perfect. That's great. You already have your repository initialized. Now let's start making files. So you can just go to your favorite text editor or IDE. In this case, we can go to Visual Studio Code, and in the terminal also you can hit something like echo the string you want to add and the file you want to write it. This is terminal concepts, but in simple concepts, create a file, write something in it, and that's it. You that's everything you need to do. This is a way you can do that, but again, like in life, there are many ways you can do things. Like, don't sir. Thanks. Perfect. Thank you for following. And once you have this, you have something in the staging area, right? So, well, sorry, no, in your working directory. To add files and make a commit, you need to pass it to the staging area. Visual Studio have a great tool to integrate source control systems, in this case, Git. So here are some buttons. Here's the source control. You're probably wondering what that was in Visual Studio Code. And then this plus button stage your changes. Also in the terminal, you can do things like git status to see what's coming up and git add and the name of the file if you want to include that directly to your staging area, or just git add dot to say everything inside this folder that wasn't added. Then you have to add a message. Well, yeah, that's a great recommendation to add a message, like initial commit, like the project setup or whatever. And you can hit now the commit button. Or in terminal, once you add something into the staging area with git add, you say git commit, right? And the flag M with the message you want to add. With that do, then we can navigate to GitHub once you have your GitHub account already and select create a new project. In this case, be careful to not add the README file or any gitignore file or choose license. We are going to just create a public and empty repository to avoid conflicts, and we are going to see something like this. The HTTPS link for remotely adding this or linking this remote repository to your local repository. In my case, if you see, I will do one SSH, but since you're doing regular HTTP, that will be fine. You're already authenticated. And you're going to take git remote add origin command and the link that's for your repository. In this case, GitHub links are really simple to remember. It's just github.com/the owner. In this case, for example, for the previous example, it was MLH account / the name of the repository.git. And that's it. That's really simple, right? And we are going to add this to be our remote repository. If you want to do that in the how to say that in the Visual Studio way, you're just going to hit git main and the picture on the bottom left corner at the origin for that. If you haven't set up the origin, that's the previous step. Remember that. And with this, we are going to introduce ourselves with another concept that's called branching. For the moment, we just have talked about a single branch, right? In this branch, it's going to be main. Let's first push our changes to that main branch to see what happened, right? Uh, Here in the connect to GitHub, you will see the push option that sync changes the previous step we saw commit, or in the CLI, the command git push. And you have to specify where and to what branch. Origin represents the remote repository, and main represents the branch, right? For Visual Studio, it's just simple as hitting the sync changes. Perfect. And with that being said, with that walkthrough of the workflow of Git plus GitHub, let's start with a little bit more complex topic, which is branching. And let's talk about not only branching, but effectively branching. Let's experience ourselves in what a normal workflow of branching can be. Uh, we mentioned the main branch. This is by default the first branch you are going to have. Formerly, it was the master branch. Remember, for those who are old as me, but hey, we are now talking modern language, so main branch. So let's think about you create a JavaScript script, right? So this script just plotted the number of times it was repeated. Simple. And then you create another branch that's called the custom pyramid, right? This is a feature branch, right? So the naming conventions are all over internet. You can read the GitHub documentation guides for that. But let's just talk about this another branch. This is a feature branch. Let's say it's feature slash custom pyramid. So you have two different versions of your project because this source script was modified in the customs pyramid, right? Be aware of that. Then, if you want to take the changes that were made on the customs pyramid to the main branch, you will have to merge them. And for to merge them, the recommended thing is not directly merge. It's do something about a code review. And a code review, it's generated from a pull request, right? This is the great PR letters. You probably heard of them before. More in our environment, right? So once we have the pull request approved, we are going to be merging that. So the source script, the source slash script.js, was modified. And this is a picture of how the timeline of the project will be. Will be. So in this point in history, let's recap that. We created a script file. Then we add some changes to that script file in another branch called customs pyramid. In that point, the main branch is still just plotting the number of and the number of what's the name for this? That symbol and the number of times in that case 5. And in the customs pyramid feature, we added not only the symbol but the cat number of that, right? Then, advancing in the history time of our project, we created a pull request for merging that into the main. It was approved and then it was merged. So everybody knows in main branch, remember main should be, in many cases it is not, but main should be the truth of your project, where the source, where the not source, I will correct it, but where the main project is, right? It's just main branch. And for that, let's resume. Let's think about we form groups of two. Each one of you select the repository, and this can be an interesting thing to do for you if you want to pair up in Discord. Select one of your repositories. Remember the ones you just created in the previous step. Let's start collaborating with that. Since your repo wasn't selected, you have, if you're the person of the repo that wasn't selected, you have to clone the repo of the other person, do your partner, right? So you clone the repo of your partner, and you add the username of your partner. You have a copy of it. You make changes to the README that was created, remember? So you are going to say, hey, I'm going to make changes of partner 1, and the other is going to make changes of partner 2. You both are going to try to push those changes. For the one that's the owner of the project, probably you won't have problems and you will receive message like, okay, changes were added. That's all. And for the partner 2, after partner 1 have added those changes, you are going to have to do a pull request to partners 1 repository. And here it's where we introduce an error, and this was intentional. Let's go and let's handle these conflicts and let's explain why this happened. First, let's explain what are merge conflicts. Okay, normally when you work in a file, well, in a project, you and you do different files. Git and GitHub are smart enough to say, okay, these changes aren't correlated, so I can work with them. If you want to merge them, that's perfect. And that will be an ideal workflow. But in this case, in this previous example we just mentioned, that wasn't the case, right? Because we had the first changes, in this case, let's forget about the readmes, and let's say we have a fruit list for simplifying this, right? So in the main file, in the main branch, we have these fruit lists, and if we make changes in the feature that's called change fruit, let's say pineapple, orange, and banana, but at the same time, someone else, in this previous example, the first partner, makes some changes in the main branch to that same file, then GitHub says, okay, I don't know who to trust now. I don't know if these changes are intended to be from the change fruit feature or the main branch. So I don't know what to do. So Git says, you know what? It's your problem. Solve it yourself. This is when the um, solving the problem start. We need to say, okay, orange and banana. Well, I mean, like banana, it's the same. Uh, that's no problem. Uh, I think the slide is wrong here because orange it's not in both. Watermelon, pineapple, orange, uh, and an apple are different. So we have to correct this. In the code, you will see something like this. The incoming change, the one in the other feature that's going to enter the main branch, it's different from here. Watermelon, pineapple. Yeah, slides are wrong. I am going to flag that. Thank you. Um, but yes, here we need to say manually which one of these errors is the one that we want to have. Once we clarify that, we add that, we commit that, and we normally name that commit solve merge conflict, right? Or something like that. And that's it. So let's identify how to debug this in a more formal way. When you pull changes, you open the file you have and you will see these markers to tell you, well, it depends also in the IDE you are. Can you please share the slide with us? Yeah, it's in the slide in the links I shared before, but don't worry, I will just repeat the links at the end. Um, yeah, you will see these markers telling you in a visual way what things are different for the files and the file history. Then you modify those files, and don't you worry. Like solving changes and solving conflicts isn't hard. Isn't that hard? It's just a matter of uh, talking and communication with the rest of the team of what things do you want or you don't want in the project, and that's it. So let's reflect. Talk to your partner and discuss why did conflict occur. Like, hey, I told you I was going to work with this file, Or I told you I was going to create this feature, and you told me you are going to do the other thing. And he probably says like, hey, yes, but for that I needed to create or extend a class here. I don't know, things like that, right? Because that's another thing. Git detects conflicts that are in the file that you work simultaneously, right? But let's say that you have an utility file and you both created a new utility or modified an utility that was used in someone other functions, right? So you can say, okay, don't worry, let's go ahead with your change. But the function that's being used in another file, which doesn't have conflict because the both of you didn't touch that, it's going to break if you don't have the necessary, let's say, if it's some function, the arguments or the response change. You say, no, I want it as a string, and your partner says, no, I want it as a number. Then the function that we're using that in your partner's code, it's expecting a string, and in your code it's expecting a number. So that's another level of conflict, right? So talk really what happened, and talk about the changes that are need to be made, not only in the conflict files but in the whole project. Then what can you do to prevent Git conflicts during hackathons? Again, in working environment, you probably are away from your teammates, right? So uh, talking via Slack or Discord or anything can be a little more tricky. But the good thing is that the conversation are recorded, right? There's that conversation chat where you can talk about this. In a hackathon, you're face to face with your teammates. I would recommend that decisions made on that are recorded also, like a Bitaka or something like that. That's an advice I can share, and that you can prevent Git conflicts. Um, are there any strategies to prevent conflicts? Well, the answer is yes. Be how to say this. Be cautious of what tasks are assigned. Separate how to say it, files. This is why file just one file containing all the project, it's not that good idea. Separate logics, separate functions. Remember, good software principles: solid, dry, and more. But these are just some insights from me as developer I wanted to share. But these three questions, they are for you to take home and reflect on them, right? Uh, whew, well, again, thanks for attending. That was it. We will love to have feedback from you if you like the session. What do you think? I know there's a lot of things to cover during this. In my honest opinion, I would love to have this as a 2 hour session. uh, but hey, I hope I give you a good yeah, good explanation of what Git is, what GitHub is, the difference between them, what GitHub has to offer, a good walkthrough of what the Git and GitHub normal workflow looks like, how to resolve conflicts in branching and stuff. So, thanks, thanks a lot for attending. Let me repeat the links with you, and for that, the links are here at the beginning. uh, Here. Okay. Thank you. Uh, you can take a screenshot of this. You can, yeah, and take it to watch it later. Thanks a lot for sharing. Thanks a lot for being so active here. Comments. We have time for one more question if you have, and then we are going to close up. Thank you so much, your amazing audience, and stay tuned because next it's coming up the Tetris Mini event with Wade, and then a session with Kerry about creating open source edutech. Right. Then after that, there is me again. making your projects open source. You will love that stream. I put a lot of effort and heart in that. So join me, and of course join Wei and Carrie after this. Uh, does the link of Linux can make me help to how to code, download and do open source through Linuxer? You mean the Linux journey? If you mean the Linux journey one I shared, the answer is yes. There have a lot of guides and amazing resources. There's a lot of information that you can learn about that source. That's one of my holy links I like to share because I simply love that page. Well, that will be it. Thank you so much. I'll start. Sorry, I removed my my screen for me share, and that's it. Thank you so much again. Bye. I will see you around. This is just the starting of the Global Hack Week.